What's up, everybody? It's Matt Johnson. We are back with another episode of Real Estate Uncensored, where you get actionable ideas, insight, and inspiration to turn your real estate career into a life of freedom. We have got the evil ball ninja with us today. Gene Volpe is here, and we are talking about all things tech and social media and real estate. We're also going to take some questions from the LGSO group. Unfortunately, we have a guest, a phenomenal guest that I was excited to have on the show with us today, Miles-Crocker, who's a real estate coach on the East Coast and deals with a lot of new agents, and we're going to talk about kind of what to say to attract and close clients. We had some tech issues getting her on the show, and so we're going to reschedule her and get her back because I'm super pumped to bring her to you guys. But in the absence of a phenomenal guest, you'll just have to settle for the three amigos. Sadly, we're not wearing our outfits today. I left my cowboy hat and the whole shebang in the other room. So here we are, just in our t-shirts today. We're gonna have a good time. We got some questions to take, and if you guys have questions that you want us to bring and cover during the show, make sure to post them in the Facebook Live feed here on this particular event. So first of all, the Junior Grandmaster himself in the house, back in your box, where you so belong. Greg McDaniel, what's up today?
What up, pimp? Oh my God, I am exhausted today. It has been a great but very long week, and typically I'm used to getting my weekend slumber, which is doing nothing but whatever I want. But I have everything that I cannot control a single thing about this weekend. I have a rehearsal dinner tonight. I have my cousin's wedding tomorrow, and then I have a mandatory, air quotes, mandatory family time on Sunday with my parents and my brothers and my sisters and everybody else. And I'm already tired, man. It's only Friday, and I am bone to the bone tired. So, well, it's going to be a long weekend, but I'm glad to be here. It's going to be a lot of fun. The baldness is with us, shining as usual, the shining, glowing star he is, right from the very tip top of him all the way down to the bottom. Gene Volpe, how are you, buddy?
I don't know how I feel about you talking about my bottom.
It's a compliment, buddy. It's a compliment.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. Listen, you talk about all this stuff, like you're talking about how you have no control. I'm currently in a house with 21 people.
I pity the fool.
Good Lord. No wonder your internet speed is spotty. Everyone, you got 20 other people on Facebook at the same time, probably.
We're actually all on the beach now, so no.
Okay, good.
Just me.
So what's funny is we were joking around before we went live is you're sitting in one of Jeff Quinton's listings.
I am, and I have been all week, so thank you, Jeff.
That's right. So Jeff, if anybody knows Jeff Quinton was on the Team Building podcast. He's going to be on Level Up with Greg Harrelson. He's been a viral client for a million years. I actually handled his account and took over his account when I was back at Viral. So I've known Jeff for a while. And it was funny because Gene comes on. He's like, yeah, we're hanging out in Ocean City, New Jersey. I'm like, hey, have you seen any of Jeff's billboards? He's like, yeah, the one outside the house I'm in. As in there's a sign in the yard with Jeff Quinton's name on it. So yeah, it's funny just how small the real estate world is. We're going to jump in. Let's jump in with some questions here. We've got a good question from Patty LaForte. Says listing agents are trained to call for feedback on showings. Have you ever actually been told something you didn't already know, and why not? So I'm curious about that. Ever called for feedback on a showing on your own property, spoken to the buyer agent, and they actually had something meaningful to contribute that you didn't already know about?
No, I wish they did. Although it was funny, we have a property right now for sale, and we have a family of skunks that live underneath the deck. And I mean, I used to hunt animals. I used to shoot everything that could freaking possibly walk. But now I'm growing into a little bit more of a kinder part of my life, and I don't want to kill shit anymore. And I walked up to the homeowner, who I'd never met before, by the way, and she's like, I'm like, yeah, so you see the skunk? She's like, yeah, we've killed the mom, the dad, the kids. We only have one left. We don't know where the other one is. I'm sitting there going, ew, you horrible human. Why would you kill skunks? Why can't you just trap them? You have a huge area right behind your house. Just let them go. I mean, that's the one thing I did not expect coming when they're like, yeah, we kill baby animals. I'm like, I don't know what to do with you. I don't know what to do with you. I mean, though, I used to be a horrible person. I'm not that person anymore. But except when I'm around you, Johnson, I have horrible homicidal thoughts every time I'm around you.
Yeah,
but
I appreciate that.
It's never towards you, though. Of course, naturally.
No, it's towards other people. Yeah, exactly. So I appreciate that. I'm glad I'm rubbing off on you. My intolerance of stupidity is rubbing off.
God,
on Greg.
the conversation we had off air prior to coming on air, if that could be repeated.
No, we cannot repeat it. All right. So yeah, it's funny. So the whole listing, like calling for feedback, it's funny because the listing that I hated the worst back in the day, stemmed all the vitriol that came down to me from the client for doing nothing but passing along a piece of feedback that I got from a buyer's agent who came through the listing that happened to confirm a piece of advice that I gave them that they summarily ignored, mind you. Summarily dismissed and ignored. And then I called them to tell them, like, hey, we had some showings this weekend. I got a hold of one of the buyer's agents. Here's what they said. They freaked out, and then it affected the whole rest of the transaction, because we said, I mean, basically the buyer's agent told them what they didn't want to hear was that, hey, we noticed these few things were wrong with the place, and it would have been nice if those things were fixed before the home was put up on the market, which, by the way, I told them to fix before they put it up on the market, and they would get more money out of it. Surprise, surprise, a buyer's agent comes through, says the exact same thing. All I did was just be the bearer of bad news, and got nailed for it. So it's funny that question came up, because it reminds me of one of the worst experiences from my own real estate career. It was no fun, no bueno.
Oh, that is funny. Yeah, it's funny how sellers have revisionist history about when you tell them to do something or don't do something, and then once something doesn't happen along their timelines, all of a sudden you're the Grinch that stole Christmas.
Right.
And you're sitting there going like, how?
You mean when I told you?
Asshole?
When I told you that if you didn't make those improvements, that it would cause the home to sit on the market potentially, and now the home has sat on the market. Yeah, it is funny. The revisionist history is interesting. Here's another good question. This is from Marina. It says, how do you deal with a FSBO when you actually have a potential buyer? So this is, let's say you're working with a buyer, you come across a FSBO or a Zillow Make Me Move, something like they've drove by the property, they found the property on their own. They actually legitimately want to look at that property. Does that affect the way that you approach that homeowner when you make that call or stop by? And you legitimately actually do have a buyer, but that's also a line that a lot of agents use. They hold out the hope, that carrot on the end of the stick.
What I usually do is I say, hey, Gene, I have my buyers, Matt and Julie. They're 3 obese, insulin sucking, wood denting little troll babies.
They're back. I love it. They're back.
They're back. Of course they're back. Those little fat little bastards. They're like little golems walking around, but like in elephant bodies. It's okay. And
golems in elephant bodies. I don't even know what to say to that. That's just, I only hope the sidewalks are reinforced with rebar. That's what I have to say.
They're reinforced steel.
Otherwise, they're going to put a street improvement bond out in your neighborhood. Coming to a neighborhood near you.
Well, the reason why your kids are so invaluable to cities and municipalities is because when they walk the streets, they find all the sinkholes. Way before rainstorms. It's fantastic.
They're like minesweepers for sinkholes.
They are. But I would say, hey, I got Matt, Julie, and his 3 little obese little wood denting troll babies. His kids have special needs, weight issues, and Matt and Julie are looking to move into their area as quick as possible. I can produce them within 20 minutes. All you have to do is give me a time. So you make it real. You produce. You put some character to it. I mean, for a while there, I was doing some calls on my calling show about things that would be like, hey, Gene, I know you're not thinking about selling your home right now, but if you are, I have a buyer right now. It's Matt and Julie, the 3 triplet boys, Huey, Dewey, and Louie. And they would like to come over to the house as soon as possible to take a look at the house, if you allow us the time. So I could put a name, I put a context to it, I put a weight limit to it, and you have a single level. I would give all the parameters, and then it's more likely than not that I could actually get into the house if I actually give them something about that, instead of just saying, I have a buyer. I have a buyer.
Right.
Everyone has a fucking buyer. But I have 3 buyers.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so there's a good question here from it was a newbie question, and let me get there. Susan. So Susan Troutman Johnson, what is up, Susan? Says newbie question: how many comps do you guys usually include in a CMA? Greg?
You asking me? Oh, it really depends on the marketplace.
Does it? Why is that?
Because some of them, some comps there are a lot of comparables around the neighborhood for them. Some of them are not. I mean, sometimes we treat everything as like an appraiser is going to do it. So we go within a quarter mile, half mile, 2 miles, as far as we absolutely have to do to go out to look for stuff. And then if we can put in a ton of comps, that makes our life a lot easier. If we have to put 1 or 2 in, then we have to kind of tweak things, and we have to do that. It's completely different. So you can't have a comparable in an inner city, metro area, with tons of condos with the same layout in the same building, be comparables. then you go out to the rural lands somewhere where there's farmland, and you're separated by 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 acres in some different parts of the country, and it's very hard to find a comparable. So, I mean, it's really, I mean, as long as you have one that proves your price, that's all you're going to really need. That's all really an appraiser is going to need.
It's interesting because so I really like the approach. Now, granted, you have to have some chops to do this on the fly, but I like Aaron Wittenstein's approach, which is to show up with an iPad Pro, and you literally pull up the MLS while you're there with them. So there's no possibility of hidden surprises, and you're not, in Aaron's case, he's building a case for his ideal listing price by forcing them to look at the data and tell him what they see, which is a very interesting approach. Now, granted, it works better for some than for others, but I think one of the reasons why it works for him is because there's no way they can bring up the house down the street. No, well, you missed this one. Like 2 months ago, that house sold for like $1 million. No, it didn't. Sold for $750. Like you can literally go into the MLS and say, we're going to go back this far. We're going to look for every home that matches your criteria, the criteria for your home, and we're going to see everything that comes up. And that way, when they go, yeah, but what about, yeah, but what about, yeah, but what about, if that comes up, you can literally go, well, there it is, and that's what it actually sold for, which is not what it listed for. Or you can say, hey, look, it doesn't fit the criteria. You can actually look up the address on the MLS and see what, they had a finished basement, 1,000 more square feet than your house did of livable area with a bedroom and egress, right? So you can kind of, force them to look at the data. And so that kind of, it's a different way to answer that question of how many comps do you put, on a CMA, is just to bring the iPad with you. And Candy, you joining us. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We're doing awesome. Hey, so we went live and we were thinking that we'd have to reschedule with you, but you jumped in, and if you're still good to go, we can roll with it. We can hear you as long as you can hear us.
Good. I can hear you just fine.
All right, awesome.
Oh, yeah,
so we're actually just taking some questions as we do. If we're left to our own devices, we'll take questions live and from various Facebook groups. So we'll put that on the back burner for a second. But Candy, kind of fill people in on what you do. I gave them just a brief sketch and let them know that we probably have to reschedule you. But tell people a little bit about where you are and what you do.
Well, I'm in Washington, D.C. I've been in the business for a little over 17 years, and I'm a real estate trainer and coach. So I've been doing that for about a dozen years now. And I just published my first book, The Reality of Real Estate, because so many people get into real estate thinking it's one thing, that it's super easy, and then we have to do a reality check.
Yeah. We haven't seen that before. That's so weird. They think it's easy, and then they're like, oh my God, it's not like it's on TV. So strange.
Right. We don't close in 30 minutes. What do you mean?
I only show them 3 houses. Yeah.
Right.
About
I had a client who called me and said she needed help because she wanted to get into real estate and be a luxury home agent. I was like, well, wouldn't we all? I said, you don't start out in luxury, honey.
So have you lived in a multi-million-dollar home? No? You live in a mobile home park on the other side of town? Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I come against all the time. I specialize in working with agents who've been in the business 1 to 3 years and just help them getting their business up and started and on the right track. I mean, everyone comes in with their own ideas as to, what's going to work. And, nothing in this industry is new. It's just, as I said, it's not sexy what we do at all. It's just repetition and being consistent. And that's how you get business. It's not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, love it. And that's why I felt like you and Greg would really hit it off. You've been in business around the same time. Greg is about 18 and a half, probably going on 19 years in, so right around that same time period, and a heart for the same types of people. So, Greg, I mean, that's part of why we started the show, is you looked at your friends and even people that you'd hired onto your team, less than a year in the business, 1 to 2 years in the business, not knocking it out of the park. And even at that, not even quite understanding why. Like, they couldn't even put their finger on why they weren't knocking it out of the park. They just knew it wasn't going well. And, of course, you can sit back there and look and go, well, you're not doing the things that it takes to be successful. That's why you're not knocking it out of the park. So let me show you what those things are. So, Candy, let's start there. Just in broad strokes, what's some of the best, 1 or 2 pieces of advice you can give someone that has that suspicion that, like, hey, I'm new, And I should be doing some stuff, but I know I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing to actually knock it out of the park and succeed like I want to, but I don't know quite what to do. Where does that person start?
The first thing they do is treat their business like it's a job. So many times people get into it because they have the flexibility of time, blah, 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 blah. So they don't have a set schedule. So they just kind of, catch as catch can. I'll get to that. You never get to it. You're in your pajamas, whatever. It's a job. Get up, go to work, make it happen. And for some reason, they think there's this magic potion that they can just take, that they're so, wonderful, and they will attract everybody because of their dashing good looks, that business will just be coming to them. And so what I tell people first is put yourself on a schedule. Your old job, you had a schedule. So put yourself on a schedule here. And then once you get here, stop fooling around and thinking that you're working, because you're not working. You can fool yourself into working. You can go into the office, but you're not working. So have a planned set of activities to do every single day. And those planned activities are make phone calls. Start off making phone calls to people who know and like and trust you. Okay, your sphere of influence. You got to get your contact list together, and you got to pick up the phone. And people, new agents especially, they're so afraid that someone's going to ask them a question that they don't have the answer to. So they just don't call anybody because they don't want that fear of rejection. That's what we do. We're rejected every single day. And so you have to get over that plan in your head and just do the work. And don't try to reinvent the wheel. And Greg, you can probably attest to this. People come into this business with, I'm going to run my business this way. Mm-hmm. Well, as a trainer, we know that's not going to work. I mean, it sounds good, but do that later. Lay some groundwork, do the foundational work, and then you can say, this is going to work, because what I have more than anything are people who tried their way for 90 days and wonder why they're not generating business. They try it my way, which is, boring, it's not sexy. And then, 2 weeks later, it actually worked, Candy. Really? I'm so surprised. So then trust the trainer. That's what we do.
Yeah, but trusting the trainer is too easy. I mean, when people get into this business, like you said, they get into it to get away from a job. They get into it to get away from a boss. They get into it to get away from being told what to do. So when Candy, the all-knowing coach, comes along and goes, hey, dipshit, you're doing it wrong. And they're like, I'm not doing it wrong. You're like, 19 years in the business says you are, but okay, I'll let you fall on your face. They fall on their face, and they come back to you and like, I did it wrong. You're like, no shit. And then they come around and then they look to you and they're like, oh my gosh, Candy, you're amazing. You're like, I know, but imagine if you had just listened to me from the beginning. Look how much farther you could have been. And they're like, oh, you are the new goddess of the world.
I know. That's exactly what they say. It's just so ridiculous. And like I said, it's not brain surgery.
It's not, but it's an ego thing, Candy. What I've come across. I have one, you have one, Matt has one, Gene has one. We all have an ego to some level, to some degree, and it's the ability for us to shelve that ego and allow someone else to teach us something we don't know and grow. And when I got in the business, everyone knows this, that I was an egotistical asshole. And my dad told me when I was a 21-year-old kid, Greg, you should be the king of condos. And I'm like, I don't want to be the king of condos. I want to sell multi-million-dollar homes like you. Well, he was 50-plus years old, right? He had earned his stripes. I hadn't earned my stripes, and it was like starting off at a stoplight in fifth gear. You start off real slow, and then you gain some energy. But, I mean, Candy, how many times have you watched somebody come into the business all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and they're like, I'm going to take over the world. I'm going to do this, and this. And you're like, so I'm like, there's a flaw, there's a huge flaw. A flaw. And then you're like, okay, well, go out there and kill him, Tiger. See what you got.
Yeah.
And then they come crawling back to you, and you're like, you ready to learn? And they say, yeah.
Right.
And then take off.
Right. They take off, and then you look like a genius.
Which you and I both know you are. I mean, come on.
But Gene, at the same time, it's frustrating to have to see somebody, fall on their face. You don't want to see that.
Yeah, it's no fun. Yeah, sadly it's a necessary evil sometimes of being kind of in the coaching training business, because the hardest thing I think for us, like if you've achieved a level of success in something you've done, and then you have somebody that wants to come up kind of underneath you and they want to do some of the similar things, you feel like you have the answers. The problem is we figured out a lot of that stuff by the experience, and the experience drills home the lesson, right? And the hardest thing for someone like that to do is to let somebody else go through the experience that drills home the lesson. We would actually rather tell them to avoid the things, but the problem is most people has to still go through some sort of experience to actually get the lesson. It's very hard.
Right. And that's what that's how I started my training company. But I was like, no one should have to go through what I went through, because it's not fun. It delays your success. It beats you down, and it's just like, stop reinventing the wheel. That's why I give away, like, here, take it. Just do it. Make it you. Don't make it sound like candy. Make it sound like yourself, and just put the work in. But the other part of it is people don't want to put the work in.
Mm-hmm.
They think, oh, I just work a couple hours a day and I'll be good. I'll be good. So, oh, I'll take this training and I'm working. It's like, no, you have to be in front of people every single day who might buy or sell real estate, or know someone's going to buy or sell real estate. Get in front of people, and all of a sudden they're like all so shy, and I can't talk about what I do because it's like real estate agents are the low man on the totem pole. I'm like, you let your friends drone on and on about their jobs. Talk about your job. You're like a secret agent all of a sudden.
That's awesome. Well, Gene, I'm sure you encounter this too. So Gene, I know you got to run real quick, but you're working with it from the marketing side in terms of like generating leads, and you see it from the side of being frustrated in terms of setting an agent up for success in a little bit of a different way, but still setting them up for success and seeing some of those same negative habits come through, because you're coming at it from the perspective of like, hey, I'm literally putting you in front of those people, but they need to be called or they need to be met with in person in order to actually follow through and get the results that you claim that you want. Like there's only so much that you can do. So Gene, what's your perspective on it, and how do you kind of bridge that gap to where you have someone that's have you seen someone like really get it, like have that experience where they go through it with you and they get it, and all of a sudden they're like, okay, now I understand. I've got to make the call. I've got to get them in person. Otherwise, they're just not going to convert.
Yeah, it typically is tied to a commission, right? Like I think nobody believes that some of these systems work until they actually work. You know, it's almost like, all right, I'm doing a Facebook Live every day, but I don't really want to do it every day. Oh, wait a minute, what? There's a seller on the phone and it's real, and now I got a commission check and I got it from my Facebook Live. Oh, let's do some more Facebook Lives. So a lot of times it's directly attached to a result, I think. I see too much where agents are. I mean, and Candy knows this, and Greg's talked about it before. In your industry, if somebody reaches out to you right now, you had to have been on the phone with them yesterday to get that lead. Like you can't wait 8 minutes, because there's 6,000 other people, you know, that are actually waiting, like, you know, sharks in the water. They're waiting for that lead. So once you
we like to think so. I don't know that they're actually there. I think they think they're there. They think they're sharks waiting to pounce. Yeah, in reality, they're a school of fish that goes, huh, what?
Listen, in a lot of cases, you're right. But here's the one thing I wanted to add to that real quick, and then I'm going to get out of the way.
Okay.
I think a part of this huge element, and I went through this to some extent, to a big extent, really. I had a 9-to-5 job, and Greg said this. Like sometimes you get into real estate because you want to leave your old job, or you've been out of your job and you want a new job, you're bored, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so I remember, like literally, the repetition of a paycheck. And I left my job, started my own business as an entrepreneur. And 2 weeks in, I'm sitting around like, okay, how come the money's not in my account yet? Oh, wait, I actually have to go out and do something actively and change my scope. Like, in theory, I could have went to my job and sat there for 2 weeks like this, and the paycheck would have came, right? Yeah. Whereas when I did that at home, I realized, oh, if I do this for 4 more months, I'm going to be in big trouble, right? Yeah. And the pain of that, I think, was something where, like, then my wife was like, is the mortgage late? What happened? And I'm like, yeah, I didn't make any money. I went from a lot of money to none. And so it all of a sudden becomes like, all right, I better pick up the phone and start calling people, even though I hate it, right? You know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. So
and Gene, yeah. And if you have to bail, but yeah, obviously bail, but yeah. So GeneVolpe.com, that's how they reach you, because yeah, you're the one that's generating the leads and turning things like Facebook Lives into leads and things like that. So everybody should reach out. He's the evil bald ninja. Make sure you get in touch with him. But yeah, I think that pain is the experience that has to be gone through to have that realization.
You got to feel that and bleed a little bit. And then I think once you do, you're one of two things is going to happen. You're going to kick your ass into gear, or you're going to get out of the business. You know, yes. So it's going to be one of the two things, I think, in most cases. Well, not always, but yeah, you're right. Well, yeah, there's some that stick around.
But,
yeah,
Tom.
But let me
Gene, one more thing before you.
Oh yeah.
One more thing before you jump up, Gene. I want to add to what you're saying is that I always tell them, I say, you can fool me that you're working. Doesn't matter. I don't care. But you can't fool your mortgage company, the electric company, the gas company. You can't fool them.
Yep. You're 100% right on that. They still come knocking. I mean, I remember we had some rentals, and the rentals decided at one point the market got bad, and they stopped paying. And I went to the bank, and I said, I can't pay the mortgages because these guys stopped paying. And they went, yeah, we don't care. We don't. You still owe us. We don't care. So.
Yeah, exactly. Like, welcome to entrepreneurship. Yeah, so you still owe us the money. Yeah. Gotta love it.
All right. So let me just drop this on you, and you guys can take it and run. I'm going to get out of the way and let Candy do her thing. My brother is actually one of the ones watching. You see his name in there. Nick, you can come in here and watch me do it live. He's in the other room. So anyway, so Google News. Go download Google News on your phone. Okay. It's an app, right? I was going to pull it out. And this is really neat. I mean, I've had it for a couple of weeks, and I actually just showed my brother, who's a tech geek, and he's loving it over the last couple of days. So it basically fills your feed with news that you tell it you want to see, and also it fills your feed with news that Google knows you want to see because you've been clicking around. So it actually learns your habits and learns what you're doing online and feeds you that news every morning. So when I wake up, the first thing I do is go to Google News and sort through the sports, the financial, all that stuff going on. It actually knows where you're at locally. So when I was at home, it takes my local news. Now that I'm in Ocean City, it's giving me Ocean City local news. So like it learns your habits, your trends, and what you like, and it feeds it to you right on your phone. So I start my day with Google News. Check it out on your iPhone or your Samsung.
And how dare real estate not be in the top 2 or 3 topics that you search for every day, Gene? How dare you?
Good point, Matt. Good point.
I saw sports was number 1. That's interesting.
I know. There's a Freudian slip. Like you think, no, I'm really looking for like news and like op-ed pieces in the New York Times and the financials. No. Philadelphia. You know what I'm saying? Eagles, 76ers, and then like a distant number 10 is real estate.
Listen, at least I didn't say single women first, because my wife would have loved it,
Oh, okay, well, good. No, I don't want to see you get divorced. That's way more expensive.
Gene, that's my news feed.
Not a good look.
No, it's not a good look either.
Not yours.
All right, Gene, we appreciate it. Thanks for joining us for the first half.
Love you guys.
All right, so Candy, let's turn back to you. So, Candy, let's talk a little bit about the you mentioned kind of the scripts, and you just kind of briefly glossed over the idea that when you're training somebody new, you kind of give them scripts, and essentially the assignment is, hey, it doesn't have to come out sounding like Candy, like make it sound like you. So let's talk about some of just the real practical, tactical things that new agents can learn, and some of the scripts that you enjoy teaching that can really help them right off the bat to understand what to say to attract new clients. So let's start with some of the conversations that you recommend that they have, which is picking up the phone, calling their sphere of influence, people who already know, like, and trust them. In your mind, what does that conversation look like for a brand new agent, and what are some of the things that they would say on a conversation like that?
Well, you're not calling, the person on the other end doesn't know why you're calling. You're just calling in their mind to say, hey, how you doing? Right? I haven't talked to you in weeks. What's going on? So you let them go on about their life, what's going on with them. And eventually, because we live in such a polite society, they're going to get back and say, oh, enough about me. What's new with you? And then that's your opportunity to talk about real estate. What's going on? If you have any new listings, if you want some leads. I always say, who do you know who's looking to buy or sell who can use my expertise? Okay? And I always say, who do you know? Because if you know anybody, they can say, nope, don't know anybody. And they just moved on. But when you say who, cause them to pause and think a little bit about who do I know? So that's the first thing. And that's not really scripted because this is somebody you like. It's somebody you know. So it's not really, you have to just wait for the end. If they say, oh, I have to jump on, I say, but wait, I want to talk about real estate real quick. Yeah, you can't really do that. So you have to circle back around maybe in 5 or 6 weeks or whenever your rotation is. You have to make it sound organic and natural. So that's the first kind of script I give them. The other script I do is for like open houses, for instance. People are constantly wondering how to engage in an open house. When a hello and a handshake, they go a long way. So if you just say, and real estate agents, I tell them they have to have the gift of gab. You have to be able to talk about anything. So what Gene was talking about with that app, you have to be up on current events and news and blah, blah, blah. When somebody comes in, you have multiple topics you can talk about with. And I love people who walk in open houses with a T-shirt on, because I'm going to say something about your graphic tee, or people with kids. They come in with the notebook of papers. I'm saying, oh my gosh, it looks like you've been looking at a lot of houses today. How many has it been? Want a bottle of water? It looks like you need some, nourishment or something. So you just kind of read them very, very quickly. And that's one thing I think you have to do as a real estate agent. You have to be able to read people very quickly. Those people who are standoffish, I love them because I don't try to make them talk, because those are the ones who typically want to work with you. The people who talk a lot, they just talk a lot. So they may not be as interested in the house as much, but it's those quiet ones that agents are fearful about. They're like, oh, they didn't talk to me. Okay, it's okay. And so then after the open house, then follow up with those people. Don't just say, oh yeah, 10 people came through. Well, did you follow up? Well, no. Yeah. What do I say? So then you have to follow up, and then what didn't get back to me? Okay, so real estate is top of mind for us all the time. For them, they have other lives that they're leading. They have jobs and children and family, blah, blah, blah. So I always say, follow up until they tell you not to. Okay? Like if they have a certain house that we met at, I'm going to send them listings that meet their criteria in that area until they tell me, Candy, would like to see this house, or Candy, we bought a house already with somebody else. Cool. I've lost nothing but 30 seconds of my life. And a lot of agents, they want that instant gratification where if, you don't respond to me my first email or my first call, then you don't want to work with me. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's just, again, that ego thing that Greg was talking about. You gotta let that ego go because they have a life. This is what we do. We think real estate all the time. They don't. They're going about their business, and we're there just to remind them that, hey, remember you said you wanted to buy a house? Are you still looking to buy a house? And agents, I think new agents especially, we have to get out of our own heads, because we're always trying to read what somebody is thinking about us. Oh, I don't want to call them because they're going to think I'm begging for business. You don't know what they're thinking, unless you're Madame Cleo or somebody. So you don't know. So stop trying to predict what they're thinking about you, because you'll never know. And Greg, you probably get this too, is when agents say, well, I don't know why the buyer would make an offer like that. Well, who knows why any of us do anything? You can't waste your time thinking about why they're thinking the way they're thinking. Just do you, and just keep making the phone calls. Yeah. And so when they get those scripts and all that kind of stuff, I said, that's a script and you don't like scripts. I said, but we all have scripts. In life, we all have scripts. And so you have to make that script your script. What do you say all the time? Oh, that's a script.
Yep. One of the things that I always, when I talk to people about buying and selling real estate, it's I tell them, look, it's a negotiation like anything else in life. If you have kids or a spouse or a significant other, you have your agenda, they have their agenda. They go high, you go low, you find a middle ground. That's negotiations. So when someone comes in, their ego is all inflamed because, oh my God, they didn't offer me X amount of dollars for my home. It's the prettiest house on the block. It's the best looking kid in school. Well, maybe they think that too, but they don't want to pay the top dollar for it. They want to see if you're weak somewhere. So it's just, just standing your ground and fighting back a little bit. And just like, okay, you made an offer. It's not dictating a decree that that's the only price you're going to get for that home. It's like, okay, they made a counter. Great. They made an offer. Let's counter them back. And I love Pawn Stars, the show Pawn Stars. And the reason why is I love the old crusty white dude, the old grandpa. Because if it's $100 and someone says 25, he says 200, all of a sudden that 100 looks a hell of a lot better than the 200. And I'm like, that's the greatest negotiating tactic on earth. It's like they go low, you go ultra high. They're like, what the fuck? Okay, yeah, the 100, huh? Let's stay at the 100. Okay, yeah, I'll buy it for 100. And you get your price, but it's just people are weak in the mindset when it comes to stuff, because everyone's a bunch of snowflakes and they want it to be perfectly done just the way they want it because they're unique in everything that they do. And you got to understand, you're not the exception, you're the rule. So just know that people are going to try to undercut you. People are going to try to negotiate around you. People are going to try to get their want or need done. Just stand true for what you want, and you'll be fine. But people allow themselves to get bowled over. And Candy, you've seen this hundreds of times, I'm certain. And when you see a client and they get all downtrodden because something didn't go right, and you give them a little word of encouragement, like, hey, look, this is how the negotiations work. These are the tactics of how this happens. Yada 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 yada. All of a sudden they get rejuvenated and they're like, oh yeah, okay, this is okay. I can do this. And they get all revved back up and they get right back out there. But people get their feelings hurt because their emotions are involved. And you've got to understand when you're selling a home, it is no longer a home, it is a house. It is a product. End of story. It's like, this is my great-grandfather gave me this pen. I will sell it to you for $1 million. Matt comes in and goes, that's a dumb-looking pen. I'll give you 50 cents. How could you do that? My grandfather wrote the Constitution with this. No, he didn't. You're an idiot. I'll give you $1. Okay, I'll take the $1. I need gum. You know?
Right.
It's just
So I know on my listing appointments with sellers, I always tell them, I say, you'll have 3 options, one of which you'll never be able to implement. You can accept, counter, or reject. I will never let you reject an offer. I don't care how low the offer is, you cannot reject it. You can counter back up to this price, but you can't reject it. Because agents are like, oh, I'm so insulted that this offer is so low. What's more insulting to me is no offer. So gotta love the one you're with sometimes. So,
are you giving us dating advice or real estate advice? I'm not sure.
You can take it whatever way you choose. But
good answer.
but you can't be upset because, like you said, things aren't going your way. The market will tell you how much your house is worth. I can't tell you how much your house is worth. You can't say how much your house is worth. But if you have 3 offers, if you have multiple offers, and all 3 are about the same, the market's talking pretty loud. Yeah. I know you want. I mean, I just had an agent come into me yesterday, and it was listed at 1.49, 1.149. They made a full price offer. The seller rejected it because the seller really wanted 1.167. What the heck?
What?
Oh yeah, I'm seeing that over here.
They thought they were going to get multiples, and so they're like, "Well, we thought we were going to get a high." Really? And so, as an agent, you have to say, "No, we're not going to."
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I had a client of mine. We were going to make an offer on a property in Oakland. In Oakland, you have to understand that in Oakland, in Berkeley, in Emeryville, and that part of the area, in the Bay Area, when they elicit a price at a certain price, you have to tack on 15 to 30% above that list price to where the home's actually going to sell at. And so, like out here, we have a client of ours a little while ago that had their home on the market, and they got all butthurt because they didn't get multiple offers and they didn't sell for above their listing price. I'm like, if you didn't want your listing price, why didn't we just list it higher? But see, the market has shifted, and now we have to do a price reduction because the market is, like you said, Candy, the market is talking to us. It's not me telling them. It's the market saying, hey, look, the rates went up, this happened, that happened, the other comps happened, and we're going to offer here a little bit lower. But people have that weird little thing, like they got to keep up with the Joneses. It's like, I've got to get more than Bob and Stacy down the street. Those bastards got X, Y, and Z. Yeah, I got the prettiest kid. And it's like, sometimes when someone shows you the picture of their kids, like, don't do that. I haven't had coffee yet. Good Lord. It's the same thing when showing a picture of their house. They're like, oh,
I can't unsee that.
Is this shag carpet?
My eyes.
Oh.
And what a lot of sellers fail to understand is, like, yes, you might have central air and the house down the street doesn't, but they have a garage and you don't. So it's always a trade-off, but they never see that there's a trade-off there. And I always tell my agents as a listing agent, you have that listing appointment, that is your premier opportunity to give the good, the bad, the ugly. Tell them this is a big house with a small yard. Guess what? Big houses go to big families. Big families like yards. You don't have a yard. So that could be an issue. So you tell them everything that could be an issue up front. So on the back end, when an agent, you get the feedback saying, oh, the yard's a little small. Well, we heard that before. Don't let another agent deliver the bad news. You should deliver all the bad news up front at the listing presentation, so there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, how I feel about your house. It's a lovely house, but that color is very buyer specific. You need to change that. Change this, change that. And you don't have a half bath on the first floor. You don't have a master suite. Oh, all of that, I'm going to tell you, you're going to eliminate buyers based on those things. So when other agents come in and give you feedback, this is not new information. And I think that's where sellers have an issue with agents, is that so many people, so many agents are so, what I call, happy to be there. They'll take the listing at any cost. Like, oh yeah, you want $2 million for that? Yeah, sure, we'll listen to $2 million. No. So, you have to tell people up front, what's good about their house, what's wrong with their house, what's not appealing about their house. If they decide to work with you, fine. If they don't, that's fine too, because who wants an overpriced listing? I don't.
So, Candy, let me ask you a question. I love your candidness. I love your honesty. When it comes to being brutally honest, when do you advise your clients to be the honest? Is it before the contract gets signed, after the contract gets signed? Just be yourself all the way through the process. I mean, how do you? I mean, because I want to understand your mentality, because everyone's got a different point on this, and I love where you're going with this, and I want everyone to understand what your thought pattern is.
Yeah, where does the honesty come in the listing presentation, and the contract you're talking about, Greg, is the listing agreement,
contract,
right?
Yeah,
not the purchase agreement.
Right.
At one point in that presentation, are you being brutally honest with them?
Like, oh, your kid's got buck teeth. You're like, what? The braces didn't stick? No, they didn't stick.
So yeah, I am because I deliver the news as I'm touring their house, right?
Okay.
So so when you don't have that eye, it's like a kid talking to you in the back seat. They can tell mom anything from the back seat because there's no eye contact. So as they're
That's
I am permanently
no eye contact. All right,
Matt.
So Candy, what you're saying is any bad news I deliver, I need to deliver without eye contact.
Matt, every single time we have a business meeting from now on, you're driving, I'm sitting in the back seat. All right, dipshit, this is my true thoughts about you. This is how this is going to go. I can say anything I want.
Say the same thing to you, except you're driving. You drive your Jeep. I'm going to sit in the back seat.
So the first thing I have the seller do is, may I take a tour of your home? Okay. So as we're touring the home, I was like, oh, I noticed there's no half bath. This could be an issue for some buyers because buyers with family, blah, 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 blah. I mentioned that. So every time we go through a room, oh, this color is very buyer specific. If you want to appeal to a wider range of buyers, you need to change this color. So, and then I'll say, oh, you have this lovely, curio of tchotchkes. So you say, which ones are your favorites? And let's highlight those. Everything you're not going to use between now and the move, let's pack up because we want people to see the house, not your things. And so you do that all the way through. And so by the time you sit down and talk about the listing agreement, you can review those things because now you've already said them out loud. And the seller has had time to digest it, and you go from there. But I don't like my sellers hearing the defects of their house from somebody else. Because I don't want them to come back and say, well, Candy, how come you didn't tell us that? If you live on a busy street, and before I even sell a house on a busy street, I'm like, it's going to be hard to resell this later on. But anyway, so I tell them that's going to be a negative for a lot of people. So you have to be aware that that's going to be a negative for a lot of people. And so I think the more information we can give them up front about the challenges that they're going to face with their listing, the better for us in the long run, because they're not going to keep saying, well, how come our house isn't selling? How come our house isn't selling? Well, did you paint the stripe room like I said? No, people don't like stripes. Buyers today want turnkey. And so when your house isn't turnkey, you're going to eliminate a certain segment of the market. So I would rather be upfront with you and for you not to like me and not work with me than to me to take your house and you're going to be bugging me every other day saying, what are you doing to market my house? What are you doing to market my house? Well, what are you doing to sell it?
I like that comeback. And I love your verbiage, Candy. I mean, you've used it several times. I hope people have caught it. You said, X, Y, and Z is very buyer specific. And I love that phrase. Right. So when you're talking, it's not like you dictating to the seller, like, well, this doesn't work, that doesn't work, the wallpaper's got to go. You can blame it on that I like your style, but it might not be buyer specific for this marketplace. So we might want to take a slight correction here. And what we found to work best is blah, 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 yakety schmack.
Right. Right.
And you said, a bunch of tchotchkes. Oh my God. There's this one house, it goes back about 3 years ago. Oh my God. I mean, they had a tchotchke shop in their house. I mean, it was effing horrible. And so what we did is we call them their treasures, air quotes. Oh, and we say, what we should probably do is, let's collect all your treasures that you've collected over the years and put them somewhere safe so that no one runs off with them during an open house. And in the back of your mind going, holy Christ, who buys this shit?
Right.
But The cool part about it is that, I like your verbiage. The buyer-specific thing I really like a lot. That's a very powerful 2-letter phrase that can really be translated in so many different ways. You can use it with a buyer. You can use it with a seller. Because you can say, you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, this seems to be very buyer-specific for you. Or Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you know what, this might not be buyer-specific for this market right now.
Right.
I hope you know how powerful that phrase is, right? That's an incredibly powerful phrase.
Because it's not saying that it's not my opinion.
Exactly.
Because I always say, I already have a house, so it doesn't matter to me. But if you're trying to sell your house,
I don't want this thing. I'll have mine.
I have a house. I don't need yours. I'm not looking at moving in. Oh, that's all. It doesn't matter if I like your purple. I like your purple wall, but I'm not moving in. I have my own purple wall.
I have to tell you one of the funniest stories ever. I went to a listing, and the seller had 12-inch wide stripes in the master.
Baby Jesus.
Pink and green. 12-inch stripes, pink and green. So I said, we need to change that. So we need more neutral colors, okay? And back then it was like taupes and off-whites, blah, blah, blah. I go back. She said, I got all the painting finished. I go back.
Oh, no.
And again, I wasn't specific, and I learned my lesson. She had painted the pink and green stripes taupe and off-white. I'm like, who does that? Why are we still going with the stripe motif? So I learned from that point on, I had to be very, very specific because I had no idea anybody would tape all that off to paint it a different color.
That's insanity. That's hilarious, but it's insanity.
It was ridiculous. So yeah, that's what we do. But that listing appointment, that is the primo time to say everything good, bad, and ugly about the house, and pack all the crap up and put it in somewhere in a storage unit. You can put it in the basement that we have back here, but you need people to see your house and see. That includes closets, drawers, cabinets, everything, because they want to see that all of their stuff will fit in this space. And if your stuff is clogging it up, they're going to say, "Oh, this house doesn't have enough storage." Mm-hmm. It has enough, except that you have too much.
So, question for you, Candy. So, this is after the agreement, the listing agreement is signed. Is that correct? We clarified that.
Before.
All before. You got some balls, woman. I like your style. I don't even have the huevos for that one.
I don't want to be trapped with that. I don't want to be trapped with, an eyesore of a listing. I mean, that's going to be priced high, because if you don't say up front what your expectation is, then they think everything is okay, and it's not. Yeah. And they're going to be blaming me when that property doesn't sell.
True. Yeah, they do love to blame us, don't they?
We're the first line of defense when it comes to blaming. It's always our fault.
And the last line and every other line in the middle. It's like, the sky's blue. Yes, ma'am, it is. I don't like it. You're to blame. Like, what the fuck, bro? Like, it's always blue. It's based off the ocean. I don't care. It's your fault the house isn't selling. It's like, oh, good God.
Right.
All right.
And so, I tell people all the time, they're like, well, what else can we do? I said, lower the price. Because price cures everything. Because I always tell them, when your house isn't selling, in the buyer's mind, there's a disconnect between the property condition and the property location. The property condition and the price. The property condition and something else. So there's a disconnect between the buyer. So we have to find out what that is, and it's usually price. The price is not low enough for where the house is located. The price is not low enough for the condition of the property.
Interesting. It really is. They always say about location. Location is the thing about real estate. Reality, it's price. Because you know what? Matt and I were in Detroit in February this year, doing a keynote speech with a brokerage out there. Great folks, phenomenal folks. Some of our favorite folks were our host folks out there, and they took us for a drive through Detroit. And I've never been to Detroit, and so I got to see all these just busted ass houses and neighborhoods. And they were saying, like, yeah, they'll give you a house for $1. And I'm like, for $1? Okay, but you have to live in it and you have to fix it up. I'm like, oh no. So everything has its price for the buyer.
Right. It might be a great location, but it's a great location at $3 million and everything else is selling for $1 million. Well, that's not a great price, is it? It's not about the location.
No, it doesn't matter how many upgrades you've done to it, sir. Or how many reinforced, slab concrete pads Matt has put below his home for his kids. It does not matter.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
I had a listing that I lost one time, and the seller was so proud because every window in his house cost $2,000. And I said, "That's great." I said, "But to a buyer, they're just windows. That's all they are."
Were they bulletproof or like quadruple paned?
I
mean,
don't
what the heck
know
does
what they
$2,000 window do?
But they were like these custom windows throughout the house, and he wanted all his money back in the sell of the house for the windows. I said, "Well, because my price I came in with was $100,000 less than what he wanted, so naturally I didn't get the listing. But whoever got it, I followed it. It never sold, and he ended up renting it out.
So, Candy,
hey, I wasn't straddled with that."
Exactly. And then most agents would rather buy the listing under the delusion that it'll accidentally sell.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I don't waste my time or money. I'd rather take a nap and do nothing than to sell an overpriced listing.
Now you're talking my language. So I went on a listing presentation with a guy. It's about a 14,000 square foot house here in the area. He came off of one of our mailing cards we went into, and like you were talking about, your guy had $2,000 windows. This guy's house was hermetically sealed to the point where absolutely no air would come in or out of this house without an air filtration systems, flooding the house. And he was so proud of that. And then first thing I got was like my throat was closing in, like there's no air, and and I was down in the basement, which was a 7,000 square foot basement. Go figure that one.
Yeah. What was he doing? What was he doing in that house?
Dude, I literally got lost in the basement. I mean, I am not kidding you. And he was with me, and we're both like, where the hell are we? I don't know. Shit.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a medically sealed house. I mean, but they find things that are so attractive to them, but to everyone else, they're like, who gives a shit, man? It's like, does it stand up? Does the rain get in when it rains? Does the wind stay out when it blows? Okay, good, I'll buy it. End of story.
But when you're working with new agents, it's hard for them to be that candid with the seller. And so what I try to train them to do is just take baby steps. Like I said, when you're touring the house, say things and look around and always look for fault. Like, what's that above us? Is it a bathroom? I see it's leaking. And just kind of make little comments like that and do baby stuff because they're just so anxious to get a listing that they'll do and say virtually anything. And I try to catch them up front before those bad habits are established to say, hey, you don't want to take on every listing because all listings aren't good listings and all money ain't good money. So don't start off now with those bad habits. Just be confident and know that the right listing and people will find you or you'll find them. But don't just take a listing just because it's there. Because it's going to cost you time and money that you could be devoting to people who are serious about buying their house or selling a house or whatever, instead of just spending good money after bad. When an overpriced listing, I don't care how much marketing you do, it's not going to sell. Because buyers are too savvy. They look at the same comps we're looking at, and if you do sell it, it's not even going to appraise. So you're just trying to get a difficult transaction.
Yeah, so true.
All right, so
I know that's why I call myself the unfiltered, Greg, because I kind of say stuff that other agents don't say, but that's just who I am. I try to help it.
That's why we love you.
All right. So how can people
the wait?
Absolutely. Well, how can people get more of you? Because I know our listenership is going to want to connect and learn more. They're going to want more of what you have to say. So how can they do that?
They can always have more. So just go to my website, www.rlretraining.com. I have courses. I have videos. I just have more of Candy everywhere you turn.
It's a candy shop.
It's a candy show, But I love what I do, and I love seeing agents succeed. And I don't think you just have to roll over and whatever the buyer or seller wants you to do to be successful. I think you can stand your ground in a very nice, pleasant way. And I do that by managing expectations up front with buyers and sellers. And I'm just going to throw in my last pet peeve is when agents say, I'm available 24/7. Are you really?
Yeah. No, we don't teach that here.
So, good. So I always tell people, My phone goes off between 6:30 and 7. After that, you'll get my voicemail. And they're like, oh, okay. It's when you don't tell people what to expect that you're up.
Yeah.
And agents
100%.
they're always over-promising and under-delivering.
Yes. 100% true. So let's stop that right now. All right.
Yeah, stop it.
Yeah, exactly. And then Greg, how do people reach out and connect with you?
Guys, go to bookmcdaniel.com. Again, it's right on the screen right in front of you. Go to bookmcdaniel.com. Look, EXP is something that's growing like a weed, guys. Matt and I are building a dynasty and an empire over there. We are the number one recruiter right now for our crew, our line, the whole thing over there. So if you guys want to kind of see what we're doing and kind of jump on board with what we're doing, come on over. We have masterminds, we have trainings, we have group calls, we have all kinds of things. We have products, we have, self-directed and self help, when it comes to, training, and just come over, book time. I'll talk to you for 30 minutes. Let's hang out. Let's see if this is going to be the right fit for you. I know for what Matt and I are building, this has definitely been a huge upside for everyone who's joined us. So hopefully you guys will, come over and want to talk with us as well. So go to bookmcdaniel.com and book 30 minutes with me. Matt, now, how would they find you at 402-339-88221?
Yeah. What do they call that? Is it an anagram where you can reverse the number? Anyway, that was some sort of weird amalgamation of my phone number, which you cannot call. But
with an extra number.
If you want to get more of the show, you can subscribe either iTunes, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, depending on your device. If you prefer the video versions, they're all on YouTube. You can also go to our website, reuncensored.com, and you can catch up with everything that we're doing. So, Greg, what do you say we put a nice bow upon this episode? Kind of an interesting episode. We had kind of a first half with Gene, a last half where we focused on candy. It's a little bit different for us, but hopefully folks enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought it was great. Matt, you got to give me a color, buddy. You got to give me a color. I can't go colorless. Or otherwise I'm going to go nude, and nobody wants to see me nude.
No. Let's. I don't know. I'm feeling green. Let's play a nice green bow around this episode today.
Let's do a green bow. Green for money, green for love. I don't know how green turns into love, but we're going to call it that today. Guys, we love you to pieces. The reason why we do the show and have done it for almost 4 years now is because we want to see you guys thrive, not just survive. We're going to bring more coaches on like Candy who are going to just drop knowledge bombs on you. If this is something that's been helpful for you, please go out and share this thing, guys. This is something that we want to bring information to you guys so that you guys can crush heads because we love you. Anyways, until next time, guys, have a beautiful, blessed, incredible weekend. And then, peace out, ninjas! We got